Well, I'm so pleased to see the sun out. Because yesterday I was presenting to an intimate number of 8, I think, maybe 6, and it was cold and wet. So thank you everyone for bringing the sunshine today. So as Tanya introduced me, my name is Minda Lennon, and I'm representing a company that I put together myself called Figure 8 Wellness. And for those of you who haven't visited me at the stand yet, Figure 8 Wellness is an online wellness centre for women. And it's been put together by me to enable women at any time in their own home and in their own time to do something about achieving wellness in their mind and in their body. My background is as a personal trainer and a life coach, although my previous life was 20 years in sales and management in an IT software environment. And I guess the purpose of Figure 8 Wellness is really to reintroduce women to the fact that you are brilliant, gorgeous, talented and fabulous, inside and out. And by empowering women to understand that extraordinary wellness is within all of you, and it starts with mindset, that's what Figure 8 Wellness is all about. So I guess I'd like to start by saying that many of us, and me included, live our lives saying that we'll take a step forward, make some changes in our life when we have more money or more choices, maybe some more confidence, when we're not so scared. And then we find that we never actually take that step because the time never presents itself. Your confidence doesn't go up, it often goes down, and the money never comes. In fact, our energy depletes even further and time slips away. These incessant fears, and they're universal fears that we all have, they start to stop us from skipping, and these excuses stop us from jumping in puddles and stubbing our toes. And what we eventually end up with is we actually stop playing the game of life. Every time we put avoiding fear ahead of our true desires and our true dreams for life, we're preventing ourselves from truly appreciating the life we deserve and the life that you really dream about living. And I know this because this was me. And I come from a beautiful family and have always grown up believing that, well, now I recognise I've always grown up believing that I was not good enough. And I spent the first 38 years of my life trying to prove to everyone that I was. And now, if you asked me 2 years ago, that was the last thing I would ever admit to anyone, because I had this incessant fear that I was only one question away from being found out. Now, if you're in a career of sales and you're putting yourself out there in front of people every day, that's an enormous fear to overcome. And I did that by putting up the barriers and by setting challenges for myself that were far beyond what anyone else would have expected from me. So, from an external perspective, you would consider me to be an achiever, and I did very well. I was very successful in my sales career. And then as I moved into management, I was able to, and what I found to be quite fulfilling was helping others to achieve their dreams and their careers. However, time changes, and your whole, as a woman, your whole role in life and belief in yourself changes when you have children. And I did go back to work after my first child into a very consuming management job down in Brisbane. However, when I had my second daughter, I actually decided not to go back to work, and I had 4 beautiful years at home with my second daughter until I decided to yet again enter the workforce, and I took on a national sales role with a medical software company. I was setting up their marketing strategy for the GP super clinics around Australia. So I'd gone from having 4 years at home with my gorgeous girls to going back into a full-time role travelling around, and there was often times that I'd be leaving my little one in tears because she couldn't understand in her little head why mummy wasn't going to be home putting her to bed. So gradually over the 6 to 12 months that I went back into this role, my whole belief in who I was and what I was meant to do in my job was eroding everything else in my life. And I eventually came to a point where I specifically remember being on the floor in my office and my husband's trying to fix things, as men try to do. And he couldn't understand why I was crying and refusing to go to Sydney for an overnighter yet again, because I couldn't face the thought of being away from my girls for another night. And at that point, I could have done what I always did, which was pretty much to shut down and say, get over yourself and just do it. However, my whole belief in who I was had changed, and this is where I am woman and I guess the background of this book has come from. Because I'd attached my identity as a person to my job, and I had done that successfully for a very long time. So when my identity as a professional saleswoman came under question, my whole belief in myself also came under question. So I had to actually stop and take a step back and really look at my life and reassess a lot of what I had believed were valuable to me at the time. And that's what I did. I gave myself that space, and that's when I realised that I actually wasn't a professional salesperson. In fact, I wasn't even a mother, or a wife, or a friend, or a daughter. I was a woman first, and everything else in my life was who I was and became part of my substance, but it wasn't the belief in myself that I was tied to that identity. So as soon as I let go of my identity, I was able to leave my job and get okay with being scared. Now I say that with a smile, but believe me, it's a very difficult thing to do when you spend your whole life being scared of being found out and being not good enough. To actually admit that you actually thought that yourself and that you were scared and you didn't really know what you were doing, and it was scary, and I got okay with that, and the more I'm okay with that, the easier it is. And the fear is always there, and it's about recognising that those fears are there, and the little mini-me voices that would come up and reinforce my self-limiting beliefs and my self-sabotage was still there. But I just, these days, say thank you for your contribution, little mini Minda. But I'm choosing to ignore you today. But I do appreciate you being there for me, because it is important. Those little mini-me voices are your survival mechanism, and they're actually linked to your ego. So your ego and your survival mechanism and your fear of failure and all of the fears that come up in your life are there to protect you for a good reason. They're often linked to your intuition, and when you're presented in a difficult situation, they're there to actually help you respond and remove yourself from something that's going to either hurt you physically or emotionally. So they're important. However, it's when those fears actually start to take over and start controlling how you actually spend your day and impact your life, it's important to recognise what ones are holding you back.